Hey guys, today I wanted to share how I set up Fedora 40 on my MacBook Pro. But before we dive into the setup, let me tell you why I needed a virtual machine that runs Linux on my MacBook in the first place. My first encounter with Linux was through my work 3 years ago at my workstation at uni. So that PC ran Linux at that time. And I also regularly needed to connect to the HPC cluster that performed our calculations, and the interaction was strictly using the SSH connection through the terminal from my workstation. But at home I only have a MacBook, and it's the only good computer that I own, and I have it since spring 2021, I believe, ever since my Lenovo ThinkPad died on me right in the middle of me writing my undergraduate thesis, which was not fun, so I needed to find a replacement quickly. So at that time, my ThinkPad served me for at least 6, almost 7 years. But for the longest time, I wanted to try a MacBook, and this is why I got it. And so since 2021, it's the only computer that I've been using at home for my personal stuff, including video editing. And it's been really good for that. I can't complain. However, when I started making videos on Linux on my YouTube channel, I quickly realized that I needed a Linux system at home, right at my fingertips, as a personal playground and a learning tool for demos in my videos. And virtual machines are perfect for this kind of experimentation. While buying a PC with a really nice GPU would be really cool, I would love that, but it is not in the equation at the moment, but maybe one day. So I finally decided to install a virtual machine that runs Linux operating system on my MacBook Pro. I chose Fedora because it's been my go-to distro for a while. I have Fedora running inside a VirtualBox virtual machine on my university workstation using the KDE Plasma desktop environment. And therefore, for my MacBook virtual machine setup, I decided to use Fedora as well. So I initially tried using VirtualBox, but I quickly realized that it wouldn't work. It wasn't working well with my Apple Silicon M1 chip. It was only meant to run on AMD and Intel architectures, and I don't have that. And so it didn't work out. So there was a problem. Now I had to find a solution of how I can install a virtual machine on my MacBook. And after some research, I found two solutions. I either could use UTM or Parallels Desktop. So the UTM is basically the same thing as the VirtualBox, but it was designed to run specifically on Macs. The main advantage is that UTM is free, and the developers promise to keep it free forever. However, you can also download this from the Mac App Store and pay a small fee for this to show your support to developers, and this is what that looks like. Now, another thing that I was considering when trying to decide between UTM and Parallels is the performance, because even right on their website they say that there is potentially a lower performance for Apple Silicon machines, and this could be a potential issue for me if later I decide to use this virtual machine for more than just, simple tutorials and demonstrations. If I ever need anything heavier than that, like say run Anaconda or VS Code, which I use extensively, it's my go-to text editor, that might be a problem. And that was one big thing that I considered when deciding whether to go with UTM or Parallels. So now there's also a thing which can be considered an advantage or a disadvantage depending on your situation, I suppose, is that UTM is highly customizable. You can really make it your own, but it can potentially involve a little bit of a learning curve, and I'm really not feeling like spending that much time right now, especially right before starting my PhD. I have a bunch of things to figure out, and so I wanted a quick and easy and performant solution, and basically those things led me to try Parallels. So even though Parallels isn't free, it costs quite a bit of money if you are not a student or educator. So for me personally, I decided to try that for 2 weeks for free, and if I still like it, I can get it for 50% off the Pro version, which has quite good features, I would say. You know, it has quite a bit more virtual RAM, quite a bit more virtual CPUs. You can run multiple virtual machines on your computer. You can run heavier applications, you know, Anaconda, as I mentioned, and some other resource-intensive software. And so I feel like this is a good solution for the next year until I'm perhaps will have a little bit more time to look into the UTM. Time will tell. Plus, the drag and drop file sharing feature between my MacBook and the virtual machine is incredibly convenient. Though I believe you can also set up shared folders in UTM as well. Now let me take you through the setup process. It's pretty straightforward. Just a couple of clicks and your VM is up and running. After you click on the download button and then click on the installation file, you'll see a window like this. It installs Parallels Desktop. You know, you give permissions, read the user agreement, accept, so it will start downloading the file. Now at this step, you can choose the available free systems. So I went with Fedora Linux. So by default, it goes with Fedora 38 ARM64 version, but later you can update it to Fedora 40. So now you can set up your Parallels account, choose whatever option you like. So I did set up mine already. This is what happens after you create your account. So you're basically inside the virtual machine already. So as I said, it was just a couple of clicks, nothing too complicated. Now that my Fedora virtual machine is up and running, let me show you around. Okay, so here is how that virtual machine window looks like. It still shows Fedora 38, even though I've already updated it to Fedora 40. So the very first thing I did was to change the desktop wallpaper. I really like that one. And by the way, this is the GNOME desktop environment. This was the only desktop environment available for the virtual machine through Parallels with Fedora. So the GNOME desktop environment is very simple, sleek, and user-friendly. There's not much going on. So if you click, well, I click CMD button on my keyboard, but you can also click that button over here. It brings up the taskbar, and then there are a few things that I already installed or added to that taskbar. The very next thing I did was to customize my terminal. So I made the font super large on purpose so that it will be easier to see on screen when doing this demo, but normally it wouldn't be that large. But over here, you can go to preferences and adjust whatever you would like to adjust. So this is my standard profile. You can adjust the fonts here. I like monospace. This is 32 font size. For me personally, 16 would be sufficient. Here inside the colors, I changed all the colors to the way I wanted them to look like. I really like the purple background, and I also added some transparency. Okay, so that's the terminal. One more thing is that there are two ways you can customize your virtual machine. One is customizing the virtual machine itself using this button here. If you want to customize anything related to your Fedora operating system or desktop environment, then you do it right in here. And that's, you know, like your typical stuff: appearance, displays, network, Bluetooth, whatnot. But what I want to show is how easy it is to share files. So let's see, if I were to go into the file manager, so right now I can see my MacBook Home, I can see Dropbox, I can see iCloud files, and pretty much all files that I have on my Mac are accessible through here. So if I click on the Dropbox, everything that I have there is accessible here. But what's also really cool is that you can, for example, just drag and drop files. If you go into the Finder in your Linux, in your Mac OS, you can just say, take this one or that one, and then drag it into here. Okay, and there you go. It copied right into that. So it's really simple to do file sharing. So that's how you set up a virtual machine on a MacBook with your favorite Linux distro using Parallels Desktop. It's pretty quick and easy, and the only downside is probably that it costs money, but there is still a free version which is UTM, and it sounds like a great option, just depends on your needs. Now, as I said, that this virtual machine runs Fedora 40 with the GNOME desktop environment, and if you're interested in seeing side-by-side comparison and difference between different desktop environments in Fedora, I'm gonna be uploading that video very soon. I'm working on that one. That next video will be comparing Fedora 40 GNOME desktop environment and Fedora 40 KDE Plasma desktop environment that I ran on a completely different machine. It's Linux only machine that is actually a result of me trying to rescue my old Microsoft Surface Pro. So watch out for this one, and I'll see you soon.